It started with a smell, not the kind you notice in passing, not gasoline, not rotten eggs, not mold. This one was stranger, sharper. People in Times Beach, Missouri, swore it wasn't there the day before. But overnight the air had changed. If you'd been driving down old Route 66 that morning in 1982, you'd have thought you'd passed through some invisible curtain. The moment you hit the edge of town, the world felt heavier. The air clung to your skin. The colors of the trees, the houses, even the sky seemed muted, as if some unseen hand had dialed everything down. And then there was the sound, not loud, not even constant. But every now and then, when the wind shifted, you could hear it, like something far below the ground was breathing. A slow, dragging inhale, followed by a pause so long it made you lean in, waiting for the exhale that always came a second too late. You would have thought you were imagining it. Everyone did at first, until the birds vanished. One morning, the crows that lined the power lines were gone. No sparrows, no robins, not even the stray barn swallows. And yet, at night, people swore they could still hear wings overhead, flapping against nothing. Times Beach was already a place most people forgot existed, just a dusty little community hugging the curve of the Merrimack River, built along the faded bones of Route 66. The kind of place you only found if you were looking for it, or if you'd gotten lost. But what happened there, what is still happening, wasn't the kind of thing you could forget. The official story, the one the government wants you to believe, is that the town was poisoned, that some careless spraying of oil mixed with toxic dioxin seeped into the soil, killing pets, making children sick, forcing families to leave. That's what the newspapers said. But there's another version, the one whispered by the few who stayed long enough to see the truth. They'll tell you it wasn't the oil that drove people away. It was something in the ground, something that had been sleeping under Times Beach for longer than anyone could remember, something the dioxin didn't kill, but woke up. The strange thing. The river didn't just flood in '82. It rose higher than anyone had seen in living memory, swallowing roads, homes, and the little post office that had been there since the 20s. People swore they saw shapes in that water, dark, slow-moving shapes, just under the surface too big to be fish. When the flood receded, the smell was stronger. The breathing was louder, and the shadows didn't seem to need the dark anymore. One woman, an old waitress named Jean, swore she saw something in her kitchen that winter. Said she'd woken up before dawn, went to make coffee, and saw a figure standing in the corner. Tall, thin, and swaying slightly, as if it were caught in some current she couldn't feel. She tried to speak to it, but her voice wouldn't come out. Then the thing leaned forward just enough for her to see its face. She left town that afternoon, never came back. The few people left started boarding up their windows, not to keep things out, but to keep them in. There were rumors that if you stared at the fields long enough at night, you'd see the earth itself moving, like it was breathing, same rhythm as the sound in the wind. By early '83, Times Beach was a ghost town. The streets, the diner, the school, all abandoned. Officially, it was evacuated. Unofficially, it was sealed. The government sent in crews with bulldozers, men in white suits with masks, digging up soil and hauling it away. But no matter how much they took, the smell didn't fade. The breathing didn't stop. And here's where it gets stranger. Satellite photos taken years later show something no one can explain. Beneath Times Beach, there's a pattern, a circular depression, half a mile wide, with ridges radiating outward like the spokes of a wheel. Perfectly symmetrical. Geological surveys say there's nothing there but soil and rock. But people who've been there at night say the ridges glow. Sometimes, late at night, truckers on I-44 swear they can still see lights in the ruins of the old town. Not flashlights, not lanterns. More like the shimmer of something bioluminescent. The colors wrong for fireflies. Too deep, too blue, too steady. And if you roll your window down, You can still hear the breathing. They say you shouldn't stop, not even to look, not even for a second, because if you do, you might see them. Not the people who left, the ones who stayed, the ones who've been changed. The last census says no one lives in Times Beach anymore, but I can tell you that's not true. Something does, and it's been waiting a long time for someone to come close enough. The worst part, you don't have to enter the town for it to notice you. Sometimes, all it takes is saying its name out loud, and you just did. You ever drive through a place that feels wrong before you even see it? Not because it's run down or poor, but because the air feels too still. Like nature itself is holding its breath. That's Times Beach now. They tore down the houses, dug up the dirt, even burned what they couldn't haul away. But the outline of the town is still there. The streets are faint scars in the overgrown grass. The old intersections are cracked slabs where weeds push through, like something underneath is trying to claw its way out. If you go there in the daytime, it's quiet, almost peaceful. The wind moves through the trees, the river rolls on, and you could almost believe nothing bad ever happened. But that's the trap. That's when it notices you. The first sign is your phone. Doesn't matter if you've got full bars. The moment you pass the old welcome sign, the one they never took down, your signal dies. Not slowly, not glitching, just gone. And then, when you check the time, it's always 3:17. No matter when you arrived. That's what happened to Michael. He wasn't a thrill seeker, just a delivery driver who took a wrong turn. His GPS told him to cut through, so he did. He said he felt the air change instantly, heavier, warmer, like walking into a sealed room. Then his radio started picking up whispers. Not static, actual whispers. He swore they were saying his name. Michael drove straight through without stopping, but when he got to the other side, it was dark. He checked his watch. 3:17. The sun had been high when he entered. He never drove that route again. The locals won't go near it, not even the younger ones who didn't grow up there. They'll tell you it's just toxic waste. But watch their faces when they say it. Their eyes dart away, their voices dip. Deep down, they know the truth. The flood didn't just drown Times Beach, it uncovered something. Some say it was a meteorite, buried for thousands of years, cracked open by the river. Others think it's older than that, not from space, but from under the earth. Something ancient, something that breathes. I know how crazy it sounds. I didn't believe it either, until I went there. It was late October, years ago. I was driving Route 66 for a photography project, old diners, faded billboards, Americana. I'd heard about Times Beach in passing, figured I'd take a few shots of the ruins. I parked by what used to be the town hall. The air smelled metallic like pennies. My shoes crunched on gravel that shouldn't have been there, too sharp, too clean, like it had been left recently. That's when I heard it, the breathing. It was faint but steady. Inhale, pause, exhale. Not human. Too slow, too deep. And it wasn't coming from one direction, it was coming from everywhere. I told myself it was the wind, until I realized there was no wind. I turned to leave. That's when I saw them. Not people exactly. Shapes. Standing in the field where the school used to be. Tall, thin, wrong. Their heads tilted toward me in perfect unison, as if they'd been waiting. My body froze. I didn't feel scared at first. I felt calm. Too calm, like the fear had been drained out of me. And that's when I understood it wanted me to stay. I don't remember getting back to my car. I don't remember starting the engine. But I do remember this. When I pulled onto the highway, I glanced in the rearview mirror, and they were closer. I drove all night. Didn't stop until I was 3 states away, and for weeks afterward, I could still hear the breathing when I tried to sleep. There's a man named Charles Rayburn who lives 2 towns over from where Times Beach used to be. You wouldn't notice him in a crowd. Wiry build, ball cap, hands always moving, like he's trying to wring out some invisible cloth. He's one of the last people to have lived there before the evacuation. He doesn't like to talk about it, but sometimes after a few beers he does. He told me the night before the flood, he woke to find his dog growling at the wall, not the door, the wall. The sound wasn't a bark, it was low, guttural, like the animal was trying to warn him without drawing attention. Then he heard the knock. 3 slow thuds, not from outside, but from inside the wall itself. He grabbed his flashlight, went outside, circled the house. Nothing. But when he came back in, there was mud on the floor, not footprints, not paw prints, just shapes. Round, shallow, spiraling outwards. He left the next day, flood or no flood. And then there's Linda Pierce, who used to work at the gas station. She told me about a customer who came in just after the evacuation order, said he was pale, shaking, eyes glassy like he hadn't slept in days. He asked her if she'd seen the door. She thought he meant a physical one, maybe an old root cellar. But he shook his head. Not a door you can touch, he told her. A door you fall through. Linda asked him where it was. He pointed toward the Merrimack River and said, "It's open now." Then he walked out. His truck was still parked at the pump when they found it 2 days later, door open, keys in the ignition. They never found him. The pattern keeps repeating. People vanish, time skips, strange lights, and then there's the thing nobody wants to talk about, the sky. More than one person has said that when you're in Times Beach at night, the stars look wrong, not dimmer, not brighter, just wrong, like they've been rearranged. One astronomer, who begged me not to use his name, swore he saw constellations that don't exist on any map, shapes that seem to shift the longer he looked at them. When he tried to take a photo, his camera shut off. Battery drained instantly. He said the worst part wasn't what he saw above him, it was what he saw below. Reflected in the puddles on the ground were different stars, stars that seemed closer, like the ground itself was a mirror to somewhere else, somewhere deeper, and here's where it turns from local ghost story into something bigger. The circular depression under Times Beach, the one the satellites picked up, it isn't just a geological oddity. It's part of a network. There are others just like it scattered across the Midwest. Same size, same ridges, always near rivers. It's as if something vast and ancient is lying beneath the soil of half the country, its edges just brushing the surface in places like Times Beach. Waiting. Maybe the flood didn't wake it. Maybe it was just testing the waters. I've been thinking about what the man at the gas station said, about the door you fall through. What if Times Beach isn't just haunted? What if it's a threshold, a weak spot in whatever thin layer separates us from something else? And the breathing, what if it's not breathing at all? What if it's the sound of something moving closer? You think I'm being dramatic. You think I'm telling you this to scare you, but you need to know. If you ever find yourself near the old Route 66 bridge over the Merrimack, if you see the ground ripple like water, if you hear that slow inhale behind you, don't turn around. Because if you do, you might not see the fields, or the trees, or the ruins of Times Beach. You might see an open sky that doesn't belong to this world, and something in it, looking back. I haven't been back since the night I saw them in the field. But sometimes, and I swear I'm not imagining this, I'll wake up in the middle of the night, and my phone will say 3:17. No matter when I went to bed, I'll hear that same steady inhale in the darkness of my room, and I'll feel the pull. That quiet, unnatural calm, telling me it's okay to go back, that it's time to go back. And when that day comes, I don't think I'll be coming back here to tell you about it. So if I disappear, you'll know where to find me. But you'd better pray you never do.